Hi again. So I just want to pick up where we left off with our reading about the Aztecs. And as I said when we left, that I wanted you to think of the answer to the reading check question, which was, how did the Aztecs rise to power? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen so that we can take a look back and find the answer together if you didn't find it, and then just keep on reading through the chapter. So here we go. Here it comes. Sorry for the delay. So the question was here, how did the Aztecs rise to power? And looking back at the previous page, we can find the direct quote to support our answer. And right here where it says, war, tribute, and trade made the Aztec Empire strong and rich. So the answer to how they rose to power is war, tribute, and trade. And remember, tribute is when a conquered people had to pay the Aztecs after they conquered them. So, which also was one of the reasons why the Aztecs did not have loyal followers from the people they conquered. So let's continue looking at the chapter, and we're going to look at life in the Aztec Empire. Like, how did they live? What was their daily life like? So picking up here, life in the empire. And again, if you're taking notes, that might be a section title. And then underneath that, Aztec society. So the Aztecs' way of life was as distinctive as their capital city. They had a complex social structure, a demanding religion, and a rich culture. So first, we're going to find out about their society. And remember, in Mayan society, we looked at how their society was structured, where the merchants and the priests and the king were the primary important people. So we're going to see how that compares to the Aztecs as we read. So the Aztec emperor, like the Maya king, was the most important person in society. From his great palace, he attended to law, trade, tribute, and warfare. Trusted nobles helped him as tax collectors, judges, and other government officials. Noble positions were passed down from fathers to sons, and young nobles went to school to learn their responsibilities. So now we're going to take a look at the insert, the visual insert about this, one of their important cities. And this has a really cool amount of information with this picture. It says, Tenochtitlan says the Aztecs turned a swampy, uninhabited island into one of the largest and grandest cities in the world. The first Europeans to visit Tenochtitlan were amazed. At the time, the Aztec capital was about 5 times bigger than London, which that's just amazing to think about. You think London is such a major city, and then here the Aztec people had this huge urban area. Okay, so we're not going to look at all these inserts. I want you to go look at these on your own, just how that city ran, and you probably will have a question in your reading check about this visual aid. Okay. So let's take a look. Continuing on about Aztec culture and society, the king was the most important, or the emperor, excuse me. It says just below the emperor and his nobles was a class of warriors and priests. Warriors were highly respected and had many privileges, but priests were more influential. They led religious ceremonies, passed down history, and as keepers of calendars, decided when to plant and harvest. The next level of Aztec society included merchants and artisans. Below them, in the lower class, were farmers and laborers who made up the majority of the population. Many didn't own their land, and they paid so much in tribute that they often found it tough to survive. Only slaves at the very bottom of the society struggled more. Okay, so one difference between the Mayan and the Aztec is that merchants were lower down. Remember, for Mayans, merchants were higher up in society. So now let's take a look at how their religion compares to the Mayan. It says religion and warfare. When religion and warfare are linked, that gives you a hint as to what type of religion they're practicing. So like the Maya, the Aztecs worshipped many gods who were believed to control both nature and human activities. To please the gods, Aztec priests regularly made human sacrifices. Most victims were battle captives or slaves. In ritual ceremonies, priests would slash open their victims' chests to feed humans' hearts and blood to the gods. The Aztecs sacrificed as many as 10,000 people a year. To supply enough victims, Aztec warriors waged frequent battles with neighboring peoples. That most likely sounds a little familiar. Like the Mayans, remember the Mayans also practiced human sacrifice, and they also were very warring people because that's how they got the people to sacrifice often. So let's see what the Aztecs were really good at, their achievements, the cultural achievements. As warlike as the Aztecs were, they also appreciated art and beauty. Architects and sculptors created fine stone pyramids and statues. Artisans used gold, gems, and bright feathers to make jewelry and masks. Women embroidered colorful designs on the cloth they wove. The Aztecs valued learning as well. They studied astronomy and devised a calendar much like the Maya one. They took pride in their history and kept detailed written records. They also had a strong oral traditions. Stories about ancestors and the gods were passed from one generation to the next. The Aztecs also enjoyed fine speeches and riddles such as these. And so let's take a look at this riddle. What is a little blue-green jar filled with popcorn? Someone is sure to guess our riddle. It is the sky. What is a mountainside that has a spring of water in it? Our nose. So knowing the answers to riddles showed that one had paid attention in school, which is kind of interesting. We don't necessarily learn riddles in school anymore, but they really valued that. So let's take a look at this reading check. How did their religious practices influence Aztec warfare? And so I want you to look back at this section under religion and warfare and consider, okay, well, how did their religion influence their warfare? Like, what about their religion would prompt them to go to war or to be a warring people? So if you said something, or if you found the section about the Aztec priests regularly made human sacrifices and most victims were battle captives or slaves, that's how their religion influenced warfare. It's like, well, if they believe they needed to make human sacrifice, they've got to find the people to sacrifice and get them. So they would go to war and take battle captives, and then they would become a victim of human sacrifice. All right, so our last section here is on how the Aztec society ended, because things are going really well for the Aztecs, and then someone comes along and ends it for them. And that's someone you need to know the name of by the time we are done finishing reading. So the section title says Cortez conquers the Aztecs. So who is it that ended the Aztec society? Cortez. And we're going to learn a little bit more about him. In the late 1400s, the Spanish arrived in the Americas seeking adventure, riches, and converts to Catholicism. One group of conquistadors, or Spanish conquerors, reached Mexico in 1519. Led by Hernan Cortez, their motives were to find gold, claim land, and convert native peoples. So in your notes, you want to write down, hey, who are the conquistadors? They're Spanish conquerors. And who is Hernan Cortez? He's the leader of the conquistadors. And their motive, and here's an academic term, is their reason for doing this. Why did they come in? Why did the Spanish come in and attack the Aztecs? Because they wanted to find gold, they wanted to claim land, and they wanted to convert native people. So what did they want to convert them to? We're going to learn more about that in a little bit. The Aztec emperor, Moctezuma, cautiously welcomed the strangers. He believed Cortez to be and here's a fun word to say, Quetzalcoatl, whom the Aztecs believed had left Mexico long ago. According to legend, the god had promised to return in 1519. So this is what's kind of interesting. Cortez, the man who ultimately takes over the Aztecs, is actually welcomed by the Aztec emperor at first. So Moctezuma gave the Spaniards gold and other gifts. Not only did he welcome, he gave them some stuff, but Cortez wanted more. He took the emperor prisoner, enraging the Aztecs who attacked the Spanish. They managed to drive out the conquistadors, but Moctezuma was killed in the fighting. Within a year, Cortez and his men came back. This time, they had help from other Indians in the region who resented the Aztecs' harsh rule. In addition, the Spanish had better weapons, including armor, cannons, and swords. Furthermore, the Aztecs were terrified of the enemy's big horses, animals they had never seen before. The Spanish had also unknowingly brought deadly diseases such as smallpox to the Americas. These diseases weakened or killed thousands of native people. In 1521, the Aztecs surrendered. Their once mighty empire came to a swift end. Swift means fast. Okay, so we want to take a look at this reading check and look back. Okay, well, what factors helped the Spanish defeat the Aztecs? It wasn't just like they came in and took over, but there were things that actually helped them. So I want you to look back here in this section and see if you can find two things that helped the Spanish defeat the Aztecs. So if we look back at our text, you can find a couple of different things. One of the things that happened were deadly diseases, smallpox. Smallpox weakened and killed thousands of the native people. So that helped the Spanish take over. Other things that the Spanish had were better weapons. They had armor, cannons, and swords, right? And then lastly, they also had help from other Indians in the region who resented the Aztecs' harsh rule. Because remember, the Aztecs came in and took over, and then they had to pay tribute. The people they took over had to pay tribute, so they were upset. So they're like, hey, you guys want to defeat the Aztecs? We'll join you. We'll help you. All right? And so that was also a factor in the Spanish defeating the Aztecs. So let's look at this summary and preview. It says the Aztec Empire, made strong by warfare and tribute, fell to the Spanish in 1521. Next, you will learn about another empire in the Americas, that of the Incas. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your assignment from Schoology, where I have questions, reading comprehension questions about these sections that we just read, and you can answer them. You can go back to the text. You can reread along with me. It's up to you, but all of this is due. The reading and the reading comprehension questions are due by Sunday night. If you have any questions or concerns, just contact me. I'd be happy to get on Zoom or email you and help you work through it, okay? But I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Bye.